very grateful to the administrators for allowing me or asking me to kind of jump on here and share some insights on how Scandinavians get through the winter and how we do so still making the most of our time outside, our friluftsliv. It's a topic that's very, very close to my heart, a topic I've studied for many years and that I been sharing insights about for many years as well. That and obviously hygge. I'm originally from Denmark, and I should probably just introduce myself. My name is Dorte Hansen. I'm originally from Denmark. I have lived and worked all over the world, and through that, it's kind of come to my attention how much Nordic culture impacts on not only well-being and wellness in general, but also the understanding of hygge. So today I wanted to share some insights based on what kind of the comments that I got on a post that I did recently in this group all about friluftsliv. And a lot of the Scandinavian traditions are very much interlinked, and it basically means that obviously one thing feeds into the other. But I think one very key thing that came out of the comments that I received was that people wanted to know how do Scandinavians get through the winter. And sorry, I'm just going to have a quick look at the comments here. There we go. Hopefully there's a bit of glare. Sorry about that. It's coming up to about 8:15 here in the UK, where I am currently based. So it's kind of getting close to my bedtime because I normally get up about 5 o'clock in the morning. So yeah, so you get a bit of a tired version, and I've put a lot of light on. So hopefully you can see me all right in my slightly dark office here. Scandinavians, how do we actually get through the winter, and how do we dress for it? Now let me start by saying that obviously feeling the cold is highly subjective. Okay, so if you live somewhere colder than Scandinavia, or maybe you know there are definitely places colder, then you might not need to hear any of this. But I also find that a lot of it is down to obviously personal circumstances and where you live in the world and what the culture is around dressing and enjoying winter. And I think that the thing is that in Scandinavia, and especially, I mean, Norway coined the term friluftsliv, okay, and that's fine. It's something that's all across Scandinavia. So in Denmark, where I'm from, we call it udeliv. So you're living outside, and Scandinavians will be outside most of the year, connecting with nature and feeding off nature, doing exercise in nature, and not least also having like a real interaction with nature, which is very, very important to us. We even barbecue in the winter. We have big fires outside in the winter. And you have to obviously be dressed for that in order to enjoy it, because there's nothing worse than being outside and being cold. And I'll be the first to put my hand up and say that I am known to be a frozen pin, so a frozen stick they call me, because I very much feel the cold. So I've had to develop and work on this the hard way, growing up in Scandinavia. And our attitude to nature, I'm not saying we've got a monopoly on that in any way or any sense, but it is that there is, and I think people have heard this phrase on here before, there is no wrong clothing, or sorry, there's no wrong weather, there's just wrong clothing. And meaning that, there's no excuse for not being outside. Well, obviously sometimes there are, if it's just ridiculously cold or there's a hurricane or, then obviously you wouldn't go outside, common sense will prevail. But genuinely, there is this sense that there's always an opportunity to go outside. And the good thing is that even when you're inside and looking out and you're going like, oh, it's cold, if you dress properly and you go out, then the chances are that it's actually going to be a lot brighter out there than you initially thought. And hopefully it will make you feel so good that you'll want to stay as well. Um, in Denmark, they developed the trend of forest kindergartens on forest schools, which basically means that kids are outside, and it's also very big in the other Nordic countries. Actually, we tend to have our kids outside most of the year. Generally, they say, and this is especially true in Norway, that if it's below -10, then it's fine for them to be outside and play. And if it's colder than -10 Celsius, then obviously it's fine, and they can stay inside. So there is this sense that you dress up and you go out, and you still enjoy life and not just engage with nature and do what you enjoy doing. And I think especially the engaging with nature thing is a very, very important part of why Scandinavians, time after time, have kind of ranked highest in the World Happiness Report, because there is this sense of well-being being outside, and even a walk qualifies as gentle exercise. So there's definitely lots of benefits, both physically and mentally, to being outside in all kinds of weather. So how do we dress up when we actually go out in all sense and all kinds of weather? Well, if I start with the kids, I've actually normally when I do these talks, I do them on Zoom, and or other software, and I can actually share my screen, which I can't on here. I think on Facebook I still haven't found a way. So I will just try and see if I can actually show you a picture on my iPad. There's a bit of glare there. Oh, goodness me. There we go. It's a big glare. That's my son. Okay. So he's dressed in an all-weather suit. Okay. And these are very, very normal all across Scandinavia. And the all-weather suits basically just, thanks, Amber, basically just ensures that the kids stay relatively warm and dry, okay, but they're breathable. Okay, I've seen, now that I live in the UK, I've seen a lot of parents put their kids in something that look like plastic overalls, and I'm just thinking, oh gosh, well, you need to allow your skin to actually breathe. Okay, because if you get too hot as well inside, it's just not comfortable. So all weather suits, and underneath is all about the layers. Okay, and if you live somewhere cold, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. It's layers and layers and layers, and depending on how much you feel the cold, that's how many layers you wear. So from a Scandinavian point of view, we'd always start with probably some soft wool on the inside. Natural materials, especially wool, is kind of the best to kind of wear underneath, because it allows your skin to breathe and it keeps you dry. It kind of transports all the moisture that you release away from the skin, and it also helps to regulate your body temperature. So if you get too hot, it won't be too warm. A lot of man-made materials don't work in quite the same way. Although there's obviously many great base layers out there as well, but I would always have like a soft wool material underneath, and then you'd layer on top of that. And I really, really like my jumpers, and I will often layer my jumpers on top. Now, when you layer, the most important thing is that you must make sure that you don't pack your layers so tight, because it is actually the air between the layers that will keep you warm, and that traps the hot air, and that's what insulates you. Insulate? Oh, yeah, I think that's the right word, isn't it? So you've got layer on layer, and obviously you might have a fleece or something like that, and right at the end you have your all weather layer or jacket, and in Scandinavia it would often be an all-weather jacket and all-weather trousers as well. So on the legs, I went for a walk today. It was about I don't know, it was just like -1 or something like that today. It wasn't too cold here in the UK where we live, but a lot of British people think that's ridiculously cold. And I had a couple of layers on, and I put my wind proof trousers on top, which are a bit like skiing trousers, but they're not quite the same. They're not as thick, and they're easier to walk in, because obviously if you're out and about and enjoying nature, going for a walk, you don't want it to be a struggle to kind of move. So it's all about having the right layers there. Obviously, I've seen people use skiing equipment as well, or clothes made for skiing, and that's great too, as long as it means that you feel that you can move freely in those. I normally have different sets, but that's just because I've probably come from Scandinavia. So it's all about the layers, and I would say especially the feet, is very, very important, because you want to make sure that, again, you layer up your socks. So normally I would have like a pair of thin woolen socks, and I would maybe have like some ski socks or something on top, and then some really good walking slash hiking boots, because there is nothing worse than getting cold feet. If I get cold feet, I don't want to be outside anymore. And you need to have shoes, obviously, that allow you to be out for quite a long time. So I like my good hiking boots for that. That got a really solid sole as well, which also means that they work in the winter when it's icy and slippery. And obviously, if you are, I'm just going to find another picture here, especially if you're Norwegian. I used this picture in the group. Sorry, it's not ideal to show it like this on Facebook, but you would probably look something like that. You know, you got your really good hiking boots, got your weatherproof trousers on top of whatever layers you got underneath, and you've got a very bright jacket. You know, with a we love bright jackets, especially in Norway. Oh, -15 Celsius. Oh, that's cold, Amber. Yes, and you say, I love the cold. I use woolen socks, and I have, oh, what's that? Mokluks, made of wool lining. Okay. Moose hide. Ah, yes, of course. I love moose. Okay, should have got my little sticker out. Yes, I didn't finish that on the shoes, so that brings me back to a point. I normally have woolen, like sheep soles. So obviously, if for whatever reason you don't want to wear anything of animals, then that's fine too. In Scandinavia, we really like to have the wool, and we also use the fleeces, like the one I've got behind here, and I've got something like that, but it's the inner bit of the fleece on the sheep, and as soles, and I stick those in. I have tried thermal soles, which I think are supposed to reflect the cold, but they do not work on me. So yeah, something really nice and warm inside, and then buying those boots also big enough when you go shopping, so you know that there's room for all the layers. Boots with laces are really good, because obviously you can widen them as well, so that's really good, especially if you're wearing more layers, or if the next pair of woolen socks that you have, are thicker, then there will still be room. So I think those kind of things are really good. And like I said, in Norway, we very much like the natural products, and not least the wool. And you've probably heard of Norwegian jumpers, so I think I'd stick that one in there for you. It's really hard to tell. Okay, so these are not all Norwegian jumpers. Actually, both in Norway, Faroe Islands, and Iceland, they've got this tradition with jumpers, and it depends on where you're from as to what the pattern is. Okay, and it's a bit hard to say. See, so the one at the bottom here is actually a traditional Norwegian jumper. It's with the lice pattern, as they call it. Gosh, this is appallingly bad on the screen. I will post some pictures afterwards, I think, because they've got little spots in them. And these jumpers are made out of natural untreated wool. They were kind of, especially the Norwegian jumpers, and they've got more of a tradition in Norway, but it's how shall I say, other Scandinavian countries have taken this to their heart as well, including Denmark, even though in Denmark it's not technically cold enough to warrant to wear these really thick jumpers, but their warming qualities is exceptional, really. They are amazing pieces of art as well, and they will last your lifetime. Oh, this is so bad. Anyway, I'll post a picture afterwards. And if you ever get a jumper like that, they're quite expensive, okay, because they'll take about 80 to 90 hours to make. They're all handmade. If you get anything cheap and for a bargain, then this is probably not an authentic jumper and knitted with untreated wool. Not saying that they can't be good, but just talking about the authentic ones here that actually originated as a bit of a farmer's formal wear in Norway. You see them, like I said, in other Nordic countries as well, and the pattern will basically show from where, which country, and also kind of what region within the country that pattern is from. A jumper like that you never really wash, actually. So in order to kill any bacteria or anything like that, a jumper like that would just be dug down in the snow for a couple of days. And if you haven't got a big snowdrift outside your house to do that, then you can obviously pop them in the freezer. Same thing. And that works for other jumpers as well. Only if they're soiled should you actually wash them. It preserves their life, and obviously never hang big thick woolly jumpers to dry because they'll be very deformed. They need to be dried in towels, rolled up in a towel to kind of squeeze all the water out, and the water to wash them in should always be relatively cold. It is actually the heat contrast in the water that makes wool shrink. So if you wash in warm and then rinse in cold, that's when the wool shrinks. But that's a different topic, okay? But those really nice warm woolen jumpers as well are just amazing. And you know, I've got one at home, which unfortunately my niece is wearing at the moment. They're very fashionable at the moment in Denmark as well. And if you wear that on top, you almost don't need an all-weather jacket unless if there's a very cold wind, and then you will need it. There has been a very big, and I don't know how wide out in the world this has spread, but it's definitely spread to the UK, a lot of Nordic noir dramas, and some of the characters in those are like wearing the jumpers, and that kind of started a whole fashion craze. The most noticeable, and again, I don't know where you are in the world watching this. So if you're in the US, this might not have reached your screens, but one's called The Killing, which was set in Copenhagen. Is a very dark, dim story about a murder, and the main character is wearing these jumpers, and everyone referred to them as the Sarah Lund jumpers because that was the name of the character, when in fact that jumper was actually from a Ferraric fashion house. But there we go. So let me just check my list to make sure that I've got this on here. So this is, yes. So I wanted to show you also a tiny bit of accessories because I had a lot of people asking me, oh, so how do you, what accessories do you use? Okay, so this is, it's not the best example because it's black, but this is kind of one of my son's hoods. It's like a bit of like a balaclava, okay? And you often have a bit of a pixie design in here. They will often have reflexes on them so that we can find the kits in the dark. But again, this is made with it's like almost like velvet on the inside, and then a very thick woolen fleece on the outside, and it goes down and it covers neck and back as well. So you put that on top. Thanks, Amber. You put that basically on top. You tuck it into your all-weather suit, and you are as good as windproof. I should mention another thing as well, and it's just because I've come across that here in the UK. You must tuck your layers in. I had a lady the other day who said, oh, no one ever taught me that I have to tuck my layers in. Well, if you don't tuck your layers in, then that hot air is likely to escape. So that means I basically tuck layer into layer into layer, because the more you move, the more things are maybe likely to pop out. And if you've got like a bare midriff, or even worse, you know, like a cold neck or something like that, especially with kids, then that's when you really start feeling it. And I had that the other day because my English husband had to get my son dressed, and he put this on him, but he didn't think of actually tucking these ends into his suit and closing his suit on top of it. So my son was actually cold, but obviously he's only 5, so it's hard for him to say exactly maybe where. He's getting better at it. Okay, gloves. Some of you will know this already, but you've got finger gloves like this one, and they're great. So these are more like skiing gloves, and they've got like an extra layer. They got really high underneath your jacket so that there's not any bare bit on your arm. And for the kids, they normally have the Velcro that closes over the wrist as well, so that they stay on. It's a bit like a skiing glove, this. And for really cold days, you've got mittens. These are my son's mittens. They're a bit dirty, but anyway. So when you've got mittens, it's the same theory, because it keeps the heat in and your fingers help to warm each other. And when it's really cold, he will very often wear like just like a cotton or light woolen glove inside his mittens as well. And it just, you know, really helps to trap in the heat. Another thing that's worth saying is that once you're cold, it's really hard to warm up again. So in Scandinavia, we often have fires. So if you you know, you've been out for a hike somewhere, you know, there might be like a fire pan somewhere, you know, or a communal bonfire or something where you can go and warm up. If you're Norwegian and you're out på tur, which basically means out hiking or walking, then you will probably always have, you know, a hot drink with you, especially if you're out hiking, you know, at the weekend or something like that. So you have something warm, a warm drink, like a thermos with some warm drink in it, to warm yourself on. It's harder with the feet. So unless there is actually a fire or something that you can go and put your feet up next to, it's hard to get the heat back in. And once you're cold, it is hard to get warm again. So I always recommend dressing almost too warm, because then you can always kind of take your scarf off, take your hat off, you know, sip down your coat, or if you've got the opportunity to take a layer off at some point, then you can do that as well. That's also one of the reasons why Scandinavians always got backpacks. I think I've always got a backpack with me, and there's always room for a layer kind of in the backpack, or maybe there's an extra layer in the backpack in case that should be needed. So that was a bit. Let me see if I've got anything. It sounds like people are very active. It's Amber again. Hi Amber. I'm in the US and I'm struggling finding people to go hiking or camping in the winter. The summer even. Oh my goodness. Okay. No, they need to go out. In Scandinavia, it's and obviously I can't say it's all Scandinavians, but there is more of a culture of living outside, okay? And we need to go outside every day. Even my English husband, I think he finds it a bit of a struggle. But getting yourself out the door, and you're gonna feel so much better for it, but you need to be dressed for it. So today we went for a long walk along a local river. It was -1. I was probably overdressed, but I did see some people walking next to the river. It was muddy. This is it's a walking path. Yeah, well, it's not really out in the sticks anywhere. We have not up a mountain or anything. But still, it's cold and it's icy. And there were people walking in fine little designer boots and things like that. And I'm just thinking, really, they're probably not going to enjoy it very much. And even if they do, I think you're going to be, you know, not comfortable and not relaxed in that moment. So it takes mindset, and I think that's a key thing. You know, often people go, oh, it's too cold and I don't want to go out. But once you're out there, you're probably going to discover, especially if you're dressed right, that is a lot more fun. And I will never forget the first time I took my English husband with me to celebrate like proper Christmas in Denmark, and we actually got caught out in a blizzard trying to get there. And yeah, he had brought his Converse trainers, but we're going for a walk in the snow, and there was actually really, really high snow. And he was miserable, you know. So I obviously made sure that next time he was actually dressed for the occasion, including getting him like some proper shoes and some proper thermal socks. And that I think makes a huge difference. What else can I say? Sometimes it can be really difficult to get out in the winter, and even for Scandinavians. And I don't know where in the US you are watching this, Amber, but if you're anywhere high up like Scandinavia, then you know there's going to be a lot of darkness for a lot of the winter, a lot less daylight hours. So it's all about getting out and making the most of that, really. And if you have someone that can go with you, that you it's that thing of committing and having someone else to come with you, then that's going to make a huge difference. My niece, I'm sure she won't mind me saying this, but you know, she's suffered from seasonal affective disorder, and tried a lot of different things. And the one thing that really works for her is being outside in nature. And here in the UK, I know they're prescribing it as nature therapy. And I'm thinking, great, okay, well, it's there. It's nature is there. We're part of nature, so it's a question of getting out there. And I know this group and my own group as well is very much about hygge, but there's that aspect that hygge is in nature. It's also when you come back home. It's different type of hygge, and for some people it will be mainly when you come home, you know, and you can light the candles and maybe have a hot drink, or you know, put a log on the fire or something like that. That's what's going to shout hygge. But it's a balancing act as well, as with everything in life. If is kind of finding the balance of being inside and cozy all the time, but you kind of need to contrast that. And in Scandinavia, very much being outside is part of hygge as well. It's not just the pictures you see with people with slippers in front of, you know, the fireplace, or you know, even the TV. It can be part of it too. So I hope this has given some inspiration to the people that have been watching on and off and on and off. And thanks, Amber, for all the input. I would say if anyone's interested in knowing more, then I have got a group as well that's called Happiness, Health and Hygge. And I do kind of specialize in the Nordic traditions and way of engaging with nature in order to create more happiness and better health for yourself. And hygge is a very big part of that. I've done lots of different talks for different organizations, both, but also private workshops on this, and I try to share as much as I can in my group for those that are interested. Oh, please. Okay, I will try, Amber Ray. But otherwise, yes, Amber Ray, I will. I will also try and obviously pop into this group on a regular basis. I think it's a fabulous group, and there's a lot of inspiring things going on in here. So I will try and pop in from time to time and also share some of my insights with you guys. So let me just see whether I can. I don't actually know if I can share that. Let me try. There we go. Anyway, I think that did the trick. Amber, hopefully you got that message, and if anyone wants to know more, you're very welcome to look me up as well. Like I said, my name is Dorte Johansson, and I kind of specialize in Nordic traditions and hygge, mainly as a mindset, because like I said, I think a lot of it is very much mindset, both how we connect with nature, but also how we create those I like to call them hygge hooks in our life that make us slow down and appreciate life. And it's often also the simple things. They're for me, this is very much closely linked to happiness and health, and it's very much a way of life, obviously, for many Scandinavians. And I'm hoping that some of those traditions and ways of looking at life and managing especially very stressful situations such as currently with the pandemic, that it can help people to get through that and get a better quality of life. Find out the happiness is something that we can create. It's not something that's bought, it's something that's created within us on a daily basis. And yes, that's, it's very much linked to hygge. It's very good to hygge in many different ways. So with that, I would say thank you very much to for everyone who have been popping in and out of this video. I will post it, hopefully. And if there's any messages at the end of this, I shall do my best to answer them. If not, feel free to message me directly. Once again, thanks to the organisers of this group for having me to do this live talk. I'm off to bed now. Take care. Bye bye.